listeners, to the Cosmic Confluence podcast, where we explore the deep currents shaping our inner and outer worlds. I'm your host, Sana, as always, and today in this episode, we are diving into something really very special, especially in a woman's life. A transition every woman will face or are facing, yet so few of us are prepared for perimenopause and menopause. And it's not just about the physical milestones, but as a profound shift in energy, mindset, relationships, and even spirituality. And listeners, I'm really, really honored to welcome Amita Sharma. She's the co founder of Nourish Doc, a holistic wellness platform that is breaking the silence around women's hormonal journeys. Now, listeners, Amita's mission goes beyond the symptom management. She's helping women reconnect with their bodies, their power, and their sense of self through culturally sensitive, integrative care. And as someone who has seen women in her life walking this path, navigating the demands of corporate life, she's here to share insights that are deeply personal and they're urgently, urgently needed. So let's gradually peel back the layers of this transition, listeners, and explore how it touches every aspect of our being. So, with that, Amita, welcome to the show, and it is such an honor to have you with us.
Well, thank you so much, Sana. Always a pleasure, and I really love the work that your team, this podcast is trying to do to bring a very not very heavily discussed topic, right, to into the limelight.
Yeah.
I'm actually really excited to talk about it.
Absolutely, Amita, absolutely. Okay, so now, uh, you know, although I am not yet into that phase, but let's admit we should be aware about this. And I often hear about like hot flashes and then mood swings. In fact, I guess right now in the current context, I think right now age is not a criteria anymore. And really, we talk about how perimenopause and menopause affects a woman's energy and emotional balance. Because somewhere down the line, there is shame or embarrassment or a judgment lying there. So, how have you seen this shift show up in women's daily lives?
So, it's actually can be very filled with trauma, right? And silent struggle for a lot of women. And the other thing, I know you're very young, you're on the younger side, but I do want to point out that specifically for Indian women, they are getting into perimenopause in their mid 30s, believe it or not, in India. 10
Mhm.
or 15% of them are getting into earlier, seeing the sign of menopause, the perimenopause, menopause. In fact, there is early menopause that's happening amongst the Indian women. So it's very, very important that younger women like you try to understand, what lies ahead of them, right?
Mm,
It's
mhm.
very specifically women in the 30s, mid 30s for sure. They need to understand because this is shifting. The whole thing is shifting now towards younger women. We Now, as far as other things are concerned, what you asked about, the overall women still don't understand what perimenopause is. They understand menopause. Perimenopause is
Mhm.
relatively a term which is not easily understood by a lot of people, including me. I had no clue, up until like when I started the company 2, 3 years back, to be honest with you. And I
Mm,
struggled silently. Like you said, I was kind of worried that people are going to judge me, age discrimination, you want to call it,
yeah.
you want to
Mhm.
call it being judged. I started having these hot flashes and all that when I was literally started in my early 40s, right around that time. And
Mm,
I thought, my God, I'm too young to start having, I thought I was having some serious medical issues, to be honest with you. I had no clue that I'm having this perimenopause. And I thought I'm like, I'm too young to have these medical issues. My God, what's happening with me, right? So it's there's a lot of cloud in on this topic that needs to be lifted, and there's so much myths around it. And to make it very complicated, the medical fraternities is also not taught about perimenopause in their medical schools, so it makes it very very you know difficult for women who are going through this. More and more women who are going through this to not get enough support is what I'm saying.
I agree. I agree with you. And I mean, do you think the reason of all this is simply because we are taught to interpret these shifts or these changes as something natural, inevitable, sense of loss, rather than a kind of entrance into a newer phase of our life?
We are not taught about this at all, right? Uh, that's the problem that I actually want to emphasize. I mean, I don't remember my mom ever talking about this to me, or generally we could talk about that you're going to enter the phase of life after the reproduction. Normally, we focus on the reproductive years of a woman's life. We celebrate a lot, which is great. I have kids, and I'm not going to poo-poo that at all, but
Mhm.
we do not, right? Really think about a woman's life beyond the reproductive years. And to be honest with you, I think it's not very well understood. And that's why, as a community, as a society all over the world, we don't understand how the woman's body changes with the menopause, basically your menstrual cycle finishing and how the hormones are depleting. So lack of understanding makes it very difficult for all of us to transition into it, to be prepared into it. Now we are start talking as a society. I see that happening in the last 2 years. Um, so I think there's a lot of things that are happening.
Mm. No, definitely, definitely. It's it could be the change can be slow, maybe in small steps, but the collective impact definitely is going to be bigger, and it's going to be like a ripple effect. And this phase, Amita, it can bring changes in intimacy or communication, even identity within relationships. So, how can partners or families and communities better support a woman moving through these transitions?
Yeah, loss of libido is one of the symptoms that a lot of women can face. And when we don't even talk about perimenopause, this topic is like so off the chart, right? But it can impact relationships for sure with your partners, with spouse. And so I think the men also need to understand what their partner is going to go through. On that simple basic education. And it's interesting, so many men have interviewed me, and I used to be skeptical initially about their if they understand, but they were genuinely interested to find out about this topic and help their partners. So it's important for men to understand, if the partner is going to go through a decade of all these hormonal roller coaster and these strange symptoms, then they should understand how to help and what to do to help, and do it together, to whether it's changing your lifestyle, changing your diet, incorporating some of the holistic therapies, some of the spirituality, whatever the solution may be. But understanding the problem is very important from a community point of view, that all women might not get pregnant, but all women are going to go through this phase of a life, right? And they need support, and they have been suffering in silence for decades and decades and centuries. And thank God today, and in today's day and age, we are talking about it and helping, coming out with the resources to help not only the woman but also their spouses, the families.
Mm, yeah. I agree, and it is a shared responsibility, because it's not only about putting it all on women to manage themselves. But what happens, Amita, when a partner resists or maybe intentionally or unintentionally misunderstands what's happening? How do you see the energy working up there? The how can a woman navigate through those situations, because it can be mentally, emotionally very much taxing and difficult to manage through.
Yeah, it can be a trauma, right? And we know the data. 50% of the women go through anxiety, depression. They have suicidal thoughts, right? In fact,
Mhm.
last week, a woman in UK, she was menopausal year. She was admitted in mental health issues, and she committed suicide. Now, I don't know if the menopause was the cause, but it's the same age group. I should say that, right? Rather than
Mhm.
so I think to overcome sometimes that your family does not understand or your partner doesn't understand what you are going through, um, I, it's very important for a woman to take charge of herself, her mind and body and holistic life, and incorporate lifestyle, dietary, and whatever changes she needs to make sure that she navigates this phase of life with dignity and also with help. You know, there's no shame in asking for help, and self care, I think, is not selfish. So women have to be more diligent in taking care of themselves, right? So that I think that is one of the things, and the second thing is how do you explain to your partner what you're going through, and if the partner is not understanding what you're going through, that can be also a very difficult difficult transition or difficult trauma to make like I said, relationships can change, and loss of libido is one thing that could happen to quite a few women, and it might take might not be a switch, so it gets very complicated. So I think you need help. You should not be ashamed to seek help. You should not think you are a superwoman or a super mom or or a soccer mom or whatever the word is, right? We all want to think that we can do everything. Most of the moms think like that, but see, it's okay that you don't know this. It's okay not to be not perfect. It's okay um to admit that you need help, and that's what sometimes the mindset has problems.
Mm. Mm. That is it definitely, I think this definitely provides a deeper perspective into this. And as you mentioned about mental health, I think it's a huge but often hidden part of this transition. Um, Anxiety, irritability, or even grief, it can show up unexpectedly. So, how does Nourish Doc help women navigate the mindset shifts, that come with perimenopause and menopause?
Yeah, so all that can come, like you said, irritability, mood swings. Suddenly, the anger can just bubble up, right? Maybe the childhood trauma, and then you've been holding it back, right? That suddenly bubbles up during these perimenopausal years because of the hormone fluctuations. So, what Nourish Talk is trying to do is very simple. What we are trying to do is offer self care resources, self care programs, because we wanted to make it super affordable for women to navigate this journey. So, the first thing what we do is we are launching an app in a month's time. And we will make these self care programs available for any women to go through. And like I said, it'll be super affordable, like $5 a month, something like that. And then after that, during that phase, if the woman needs more help, let's say expert help, then we're going to have vetted experts that women can take help from. For example, she needs help and okay, I want to take some supplements. As an example, hair thinning is one of the a symptom or something else. So I want to start taking supplements. So then or I'm putting on weight as an example, or I'm having mood swings, then they can consult with a naturopathic doctor. Oh, I need some stress reduction, mindfulness or yoga, different type of holistic experts who can help a woman get back in track, or balancing their hormones is actually the key in this phase, right? If what is happening is the hormones are getting imbalanced, and that's one of the reasons why women are having all these strange symptoms. So then we will have all these experts who can help them one on one, and put them on the track. So that's how Nourish Doc is trying to build a comprehensive solution for the women, starting from the self care, then going into maybe a group care, that's still affordable, and then moving into the one-on-one care that they can engage in with the right experts.
Hmm. I mean, I really appreciate, Amita, that you are normalizing these emotional waves. And in your experience, there's something called a sisterhood or community. What is the role um, it they play in helping women process and heal during this time? Of course, when you get that safe space, that comfortable space to share, it's kind of collective sharing. When you share your trauma or grief, your experiences, it kind of makes you feel lighter. And I would love to know, any kind of experiences you have had, or any stories that you would like to share where you saw the role of community beautifully playing into the women's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of research that has been done, right? Group therapy is it works, and sisterhood, meaning the community. You feel you want to go to a place where you're not feeling judged, right? That you can you can talk safely, you can talk about anything, and you feel that this is a safe space, that nobody's going to ridicule you or judge you or think that you are not good or those kind of things. So I think, because self-esteem is one of the issues that a lot of women face, because as they are getting older, the physical attributes also go down for most of the women. And then the other symptoms we are talking about, right? The physical, emotional. So community can play a huge role. There's a science behind it. There's a research behind it. We have seen it. We've conducted a lot of webinars ourselves at Nourish Talk, not necessarily through the app, but w- just webinars on the menopause, and have quite a few women come together, and they share their own experiences. And then they feel that they can do that in a safe space. That helps them feel lighter. And we know that cognitive behavioral therapy and other therapy, talk therapy, helps. There's a lot of evidence behind it. So absolutely, yes, it makes a huge difference.
Hmm. Okay, now I think this is such a beautiful aspect. I think it hasn't been yet discussed, especially on my shows, on our shows. But you say that menopause can be a gateway to spiritual growth and self awareness. This is so much refreshing, and it can be so much, it's such a debatable, aspect, because it adds a altogether different perception to menopause or perimenopause. So, can you share how women might use this time to reconnect with themselves, maybe their higher selves, deeper wisdom, or maybe kind of explore a spiritual path for themselves?
Yeah, I think, this phase of a woman's life is really reflecting on herself, her
Mm.
accomplishments. And, a typical woman, let's just take an example. I mean, I'll take my example, right? A
Mhm.
typical woman at this age group would have probably kids who are grown up, right? And now she might be having an empty nester. She might be an empty nester, and this is a perfect time for her to do what she always wanted to do, if you think about it, right? Because the responsibility of raising a family is not like it's kind of like the out there, but the kids are grown up, and you have time for yourself, and you probably are not so dependent on your parents when you were young. Yes, you were free at that time, but you had did not have the knowledge to do what you wanted to do, and you practically ended up doing what others thought that you should do, right? Because you wanted to make money, or you wanted to fit into the society, or this was hot, and that's what you should do, and you should not do that. So there's a lot of society pressure when we are young, well, younger, I should say, that in 20s, right? We're trying to make a to fit into and please our parents, and all that phenomena is happening. And then once a woman gets married, and the kids, the whole, at least a more than a decade or couple of decades go into raising your kids. Now you're at a stage like an average woman here, 50 something or late 40s or around 50, early 50s. She's got, older, like grown up kids, I would say, that teenager kids who are away in college. And now you got the time. You might as well reflect and do what you want to do, right? And I think it's a beautiful time, because now you've got a lot of wisdom. You've learned a lot through what life can be, and you can try to do what you always wanted to do. So this is definitely a phase of discovery, a rediscovery, a purpose. You can lead a life of making an impact, making a purpose. I think let your character come out, the strength of your character. You don't are not being scared of being judged by other people, or what would people think if let's say, want to become a painter, or a gardener, or whatever, right? As an example. So I think it's really a positive way of thinking, bringing joy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go on, Amita. Go on, go on. I think there was some
Yeah.
action there.
Okay. So I think it could be a very beautiful phase in a woman's life of really rediscovering herself, reinventing herself, and bringing a lot of joy and a meaning, and making an impact in her life of actually doing something that she feels there's a purpose behind it. And there's so many examples, right? There's so many examples I could say. Recently, a Grammy award went to an Indian woman, if you know, right? She is in her mid 70s. So uh, there's so many examples I can say that a lot of women have rediscovered themselves in their mid 40s and started doing a completely different career. Um, so, I mean, same here. I'm one of the examples as well.
Example here.
I mean, I felt that I should. I'm still using technology, which I was doing before, but I felt a compelling need to do something, in this topic, because it's just been too silent for a long time, and it needs to come out and be normalized, the discussion, right?
Exactly. That's the catch, the normalized discussion.
Yeah.
Ah, hmm, definitely. And I think this reframing is necessary. And you know, like some younger, Mm. that sounds nice. I mean, I wouldn't say that because I personally connect with this, but uh, some younger women might say that that sounds nice, but I'm like dreading menopause, and she is thinking of becoming invisible. All these that you become aged, then people kind of judge you around. Okay, she's just cranky or moody because of her hormones. I mean, these are not just stereotypes. These are all shaped from the experiences uh, women have had, maybe in the workplace or in um, normal discussions. So, how can we help shift that fear into empowerment, Amita? I think not only community, but in families, because culturally there is so much stigma around this. In fact, not only menopause or perimenopause, there are so cultural stigma associated with menstruation.
Yeah.
You know, places in India still, I mean, girls are told not to uh, cook during the days of periods or go to temples. I mean, they are kind of physically distant, because they're considered as impure or kind of related to a negative energy during those days. I mean, it is still there. Maybe there are discussions happening, there are conversations happening, but I guess it has not yet completely penetrated at to the grassroots level.
Yeah, I think yeah, you have a point because I have talked with a lot of nonprofits in India. We want to reach them, and then the way I think you can do that is by reaching out to some of the nonprofits and reaching out at the grassroots level, and really education and menstrual health itself is such a topic that people don't want to discuss. I mean, this is again a very a topic that I don't even know how the society a normal at the grassroots level. So I think it needs to happen. Some of the nonprofits, big nonprofits, bringing they educating the women who are at the minorities, at the marginal society, right? What you want to call it, who are not, but still making a living by being a worker in the tea garden, as an example,
Mm.
or working in someone's home, and the husband doesn't understand. So there's a lot of work that needs to happen still. I think it's one step at a time. So that's what we want to reach. The end result, and the end goal is to reach that woman out there who is in the tea garden, by offering her something that she can understand, and she can at least start taking care of herself. I mean, that is the intention here. But uh, but there's a lot of work. You're right. Absolutely, there's a lot of work that needs to happen, a lot of um, education that needs to happen. And I think at some point, at the community level, organizations and some other higher associations and government organizations and all that, it's happening in UK and Australia, believe it or not, right?
Mhm.
Governments are involved. The actual governments are involved. I mean, that is what is interesting, because they realize it's a community problem. It's not just a physical hard flash, one thing, and that's it. It's all the things we talked about. So it's happening in the world. So maybe it will start happening in other parts of the world as well, or slowly. It might take 10 years, I don't know. But UK and Australia are definitely taking a leap forward by making it mandatory, and keeping passing legislations and laws to protect women during these years, as far as their work culture and giving them support and a lot of other things. So there is hope. We have to have hope. I'm a very hopeful person.
Exactly. In so many conversations, yes, we try to address the root cause, we talk about solutions. But I think the most common element which I find, whenever I ask, how do you see the future working out there? Is it going to work out or not? It's the hope. I'm hopeful of it. And I think that gives that higher conscious, energy to keep doing what you are embarked upon. And I mean, yeah, I absolutely admire what you're doing, Amita. This is really noble. This is, something which has born from a personal experience, which is unfortunately experienced by every woman on this planet. Um, so thank you. Thank you so much for giving us this perspective to think about.
But I really appreciate Sanal for bringing this topic. As I said earlier, I'm just a little drop who's trying to do one step at a time, make a, make a difference. So that's my intention. And like I said, I'm also rediscovering myself. We were talking about the rediscovery part. I'm definitely one of those. Um,
Okay.
right? I want to live my life with purpose and make a social impact. So I think it happens to a lot of us when we get mid-age life. A lot of us want to question what we are doing. Why are we running so much, for the money or whatever? And what is that going to get you? So that's what we are trying to do here at Nourish Talk, and hopefully make an impact, a social impact on a lot of people's lives and communities here. So really appreciate you talking to me today.
Lovely, lovely. And Amita, if our listeners would like to connect with you, maybe to take part in the initiative or share their experiences or their insights and also explore about what work Nourish Talk is doing, what's the best way to do that?
Just go to our website. That's the best way right now. www.nourishdoc.com. Our app should be live soon, in the summer. So stay tuned. But until then, just go to our website.
Right. I'll make sure to have all the links and details in the show notes. And thank you so much, Amita, for guiding us through this conversation with such grace and depth as well. Thank you.
Thank you again.
And to all the beautiful listeners out there, especially women. Yeah, of course, everyone. Menopause, it isn't just a medical event. It is a powerful turning point in energy, mindset, relationships, and spirit. So, if you or someone you love is navigating through this journey, check out Nourish Talk, connect with Amita for holistic compassion support. Just refer to the show notes along with this episode, and let's keep rewriting the narrative together. Until next time, stay curious and stay open, and also take care of yourself and your loved ones. Thank you.